there, Mama. I'm Courtney Cecil, proud mom of two boys and an organizational culture and behavior change executive. And I'm a believer in building a movement to help the burned out, overwhelmed working moms reclaim their control and free time so that they can confidently remain in the workforce without losing the sanity or themselves. Now, let's get started.
Hey y'all, I'm your host, Courtney Cecil, and welcome back to another episode of the Life Management System for Working Moms. And inside this episode, I am so excited to host Erica Diamonds. Erica and I met at the Mom 2.0 conference, and I was just so struck by her level of poise and the intentionality she has towards self-care. Erica's on a global mission to redefine what self-care looks like. She is a sought-after media expert, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and the host of the Erica Diamond podcast. She is also a certified life and career coach and the founder of an award-winning women's empowerment brand, ericadiamond.com. Erica, what a pleasure to have you here with me today.
I'm so excited to chat. And it was so funny because you and I connected online and then we met in person, right, at Mom 2. And here we are reunited again. So thrilled to be here.
Yes, and we both celebrated milestone birthdays this year, Erica, which I think also leaves us in a space where every milestone birthday that you have, you become that much more intentional. And one of the things that I both admire and recognize in you is how intentional you are in some of your own decision making, and that is no doubt represented in the relationships that you build with your clients and on stages and that sort of thing. So I'm excited to bring some of that wisdom to the audience today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love being intentional and I love what you say. It's so true. Every milestone birthday, I think we just become more of who we are and more intentional. And I think that's a beautiful way to go through life, is being intentional. So thank you for recognizing that. I think I am intentional.
Well, good. That is, it is one of the things I pride myself on as well, and something that I believe I bring to my clients. But certainly when you think about just the energy that you bring to a room, that is palpable. So I'm hoping that the listeners can be able to at least absorb some of that equanimity that I experience when I engage with you, Erica. So speaking of equanimity, you have such a gift for helping women fall back in love with their lives. And I would love to just start by asking you, what are signs that somebody might be able to pick up on that they've fallen out of love with their life? And how might they go about reigniting that spark? Like, what would that process look like to help them get back to a place where they're loving life again?
Yeah. So I think waking up and being excited about your life is a place we all want to get to. The problem is, as we go through life, career, life, marriage, kids, the grind, Groundhog Day, it starts to feel overwhelming, repetitive, uncreative, everything that we don't want to work towards sometimes. And so what I find with my clients is that happens. We start to get this sort of uncreative, where it feels like Groundhog Day, when we are not being intentional with any kind of either wellness routine and our mindset. So most of us are walking around in a scarcity mindset or a limited or fixed mindset where we think resources, are finite to us, that we'll never get there, we'll never do that. She has something that I'll never have. And we walk around with this limiting mindset. What I coach and help my clients to create is an abundance mindset where we believe that there always is enough money, time, energy, jobs, where we have a trust in something maybe we can't see, but we know that abundance is waiting for us. So and I know this is not a full conversation on well-being, but if we are not taking care of ourselves, and specifically in my 5 pillars of well-being, if we recognize, what we eat, how we sleep, how we move, how we manage stress, how we connect socially, if we are not looking after this little pizza pie, then chances are we are not going to wake up in abundance. We are not going to feel excited about our life. We are not going to be in flow state. So I would advise any woman who is working, who's functioning sort of from that scarcity mindset, a great exercise or tip I would advise would be an anchoring exercise called thought challenging. And it's pretty simple. And how it works is, so we have about 70,000 thoughts a day. And get this, about 90 to 95% of them are the exact same repeating thoughts as we had yesterday. And about 80% of those thoughts are negative. So we default to ants, automatic negative thoughts. What we have to do to get out of this sort of out of our head and working towards this abundance mindset is to challenge our negative thoughts. So when a negative thought comes up, I'll never be able to get this done in time. What is the challenge to that thought? So, okay, I'll never be able to get this finished on time. The thought to that is, if I trim some of the fat off my schedule or delegate it to someone to get some help, I will be able to finish it on time. So what are the recurring negative thoughts you have about yourself or your life? And I would advise you to sit down and take 20 minutes and write the challenge to that thought, and keep that on your phone and keep that handy when you go into that mode where all you see are closed doors, as an ability. So we actually rewire our brain with activities like this. So, I mean, we'll get into stuff like 21 days to like, when do we see changes in our lives as we start to change our routines? And studies show about 3 weeks, about 21 days to form a new habit, and about 66 days up to 6 months for it to start to become more automatic. So through meditation, breath work, and mindset work, we rewire that scarcity mindset. Our brain is malleable. We can change it, and we can operate from that more abundance mindset. So if you're feeling negative right now, well, there's a whole host of ideas that you can do, but I would start to look right away at those. What are those thoughts that you keep having, and work towards gratitude as well. Yeah.
I love that you specifically used time as the example, Erica, because most of my listeners, that's where they are.
Yeah.
And I must admit that I often fall into that same trap myself, that there is a scarcity of time, that life is just moving so fast and the level of responsibilities are so deep. We're in the messy middle of life. Kids are in a million activities. We're at the peak of our career. Many of my listeners are either entrepreneurs or in corporate, both of which have incredible demands. So it's really easy to find yourself in that mindset. And I can appreciate how complicated that probably is to be able to rewire. But wow, what a gift. Because at the end of the day, all of us have the same 24 hours, and there's some really impressive people out there that do some great things with those 24 hours. But a lot of it is just I think what I hear you saying is the attitude of, no, we get 24 hours. It's not that you have to do something, it's that you get to do it.
It's that we get to do it, but it's also as well a reminder that the way to live in that flow state is our whole life is dictated by our values. So that's really, we make choices to thrive, right? So when I'm coaching a woman, and if she's feeling she's dancing on that line of burnout, and we talk about, well, what would life look like if you went from a 5-day work week to a 4-day work week? And right away their face lights up. I could do my graze. I could do my errands. I'd have a day to breathe. Okay, let's explore that further. What would be the monetary value, and can you live with? So the way to operate in your flow state are non-negotiables. Our life is dictated by our values. When you have a clear understanding of what you value and what your values are for yourself and for your family, well, that's how you make choices. That's how you make those tough non-negotiable choices and say, my non-negotiable is a 4-day work week. Okay, so once you examine what that could look like, that's when we really start to operate in our zone of genius, which is when we really take a hard look at our values.
This is not the first time these listeners have heard that, unless this is their first time tuning in. That is exactly what I focus on with my clients, Erica. So I don't even know if you and I talked about this, but in my day job, I lead culture at a Fortune 50. Yeah. And culture is all about values. It is how you align the values of an organization with the values of the people in order to just have synergy between what you're trying to achieve together. And that is very much where I start my clients, is when you get really clear on your values, that informs what you prioritize, or in the language that you used, values is how you make your choices. I love that. Because when you know what it is that you're prioritizing, that's how you expend your resources, your time, your money, and your energy resources. And that's essentially what you're saying. And a lot of people also get wrapped around the decision making itself, and that becomes an energy suck, it becomes a drain, it becomes a massive time waster. But that all happens because they're not grounded on their values.
Absolutely. Well said. Amen.
Yeah. So my next question, you might have just answered, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just in case. If a lot, again, this audience is mostly very ambitious, like recovering perfectionist type personalities. Um, if you were to tell them one piece of advice about mindset management that might surprise them, but it's really going to make a difference, would that be what you just talked about, or do you think it would be something else?
Yeah. It would be in line with what I just said, which is you have the ability to create that mindset for yourself. And that should be something that every mom, woman should be working towards. Because when we operate from that scarcity mindset, we operate from a fear-based standpoint. And so that's where we are, we're breathing shallow in our throat, and then everything sort of feels very heightened. When we have a trust that abundance is showing up for us, we are creative. We can be creative, which really allows us to show up even better, even more successfully in our life. So I would say just knowing that you have the ability right now to course correct as a life coach. So how we differ from a therapist is therapists often will look back to understand any childhood trauma or where you've come from to understand where you are today and why you make your decisions. As a life coach, I will look at where you are and where you want to be, and I'll help you build the roadmap through. So I think just to know that where you are and where you want to be is possible, and mindset is such a big piece of that. In fact, mindset is the first piece of my 4-step. So I teach a 4-step self-care and burnout prevention method and model and blueprint. And the first step is mindset. We cannot begin to change our lives or course correct from a limited mindset. So step 1 is mindset. Step 2 is body. And that is understanding what stress does to our body, acute versus chronic. So I'm not going to give you all the 4, I won't explain what they are, but it's mindset, body, time, and transformation. So mindset is that first foundational piece for everyone. So just knowing that you can course correct right now, if you're sitting and you're, feeling woe is me and very discouraged and like there's only doors and no windows in front of you, know that you are capable of rewiring your brain for an abundance mindset. So the next step is, how am I going to do that? What is step 1? How can I start? But just knowing that you don't have to stay stuck where you are right now, I think is very helpful. That help is out there. There's a lot of resources. There's life coaches, there's YouTube videos, there's books, there's podcasts. So if you are not happy where you are, you're not a tree. You can move at any time you choose. And abundance and mindset, is where we begin. Mindset is the first step.
I love that. I also love that you called out that you're not a tree. I've never heard it explained like that, Erica, but that is often where people get stuck, because it's easier to complain than it is to get
Yep.
motivated to change and lead yourself through that transformation. But I keep telling my audience, gosh, it doesn't have to look like that. Like, you actually can change. And what an empowering.
I just want to tell you, Courtney, on
Yeah.
this, on mindset, what's interesting, when I give my keynotes and I talk about step 1, which is mindset, I talk about the research out of Yale, and it's fascinating. And what it is that about, so how do we just, what are the studies on happiness, right? We all want to kind of work towards being joyful and happy. So what is the research on happiness? Well, we have a genetic set point of 50% when it comes to happiness. So are you a glass half full or half empty kind of person? That matters a lot. So for me, I'm definitely a glass half full person. I know this about myself. I'd say my husband is probably the other kind.
Yeah.
But here's where the research gets interesting. Only 10% of the big life occurrences that we think have a real impact on our happiness threshold, divorce, death, job loss, job transition, any of these big life occurrences, they have only a 10% effect on our happiness. So but what is the other half, almost 50%? So the balance, what the other 40% is? Our thoughts, our habits, and our activities. So by changing your daily habits and activities and toolbox of time management strategies, how you show up every day, and your thoughts and the thoughts you think and the activities you do, that accounts for 40% of your happiness. So those things we think are massive for our happiness, death, divorce, jobs, that's only 10%. And what does that mean? That means that happiness is very much in our own hands, and we are very much in control of our own happiness. So that's really important when it comes to mindset. You can change your happiness threshold in your life, as research shows us, by showing up differently. DSD, do something different.
Oh my gosh, that's so empowering. Um, but also mostly you're saying, Erica, you're in control of that. That is
Yeah.
something, death within reason, there are probably different beliefs around regard, of course you have control over some aspects of that, not at all. But your day-to-day behaviors and thought patterns, like you get to choose that. That's something you can control and that you can action today.
Yeah.
So you touched on this just a second ago when you were breaking down your program, and you say you start with mindset, and it was all around burnout. And I know you do work with a lot of women that are burning out. What does burnout really look like in your mind? And most especially, what might recovery look like for somebody that is on that trajectory?
So I would like to say I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. So if you are in full-blown burnout, I am not the right person to help you. That is out of my lane. I'm a life and career coach. So I'm all about burnout prevention, not recovery. So I'm all about preventing burnout and living in that optimal state of flow. But if you are currently feeling burnt out, and I'll share some of the signs, and it's time to get help. And that would not be from me, not from a life or career coach. That would be, in a great place to start would be from your family doctor. Okay. For me, one of the signs, what it felt like for me, so I'm 50, I encountered a near burnout when I was about 27. And apathy is a very big sign. So things that used to make you excited, you're neither kind of excited or low. You're just kind of like flat. You get up and the things that used to excite you don't excite you. There can be subtle signs, sore tummy, itchy skin, eczema, things like that. So inflammatory, when we're stressed, we get inflamed in our body, and that can manifest, like I said, sore tummy, headaches, skin issues, agitation, irritation. That was me. Like I'd be in traffic and I would get completely enraged from traffic. The little things piss me off. Racing thoughts at night, not sleeping well, not eating well. Anytime you feel disconnected from who you were before, those are generally red flags. Not wanting, literally, from not wanting to get up and go to work. Job burnout is a big one. So any of those things, yeah, headaches, apathy, difficulty concentrating, difficulty sleeping, those are all signs. And especially when they feel different than how you felt before, it's time to check in with your doctor and see if it's something that you can course correct, with the help of perhaps a coach. If you can start, like I help people develop a self-care toolbox, burnout prevention, to bring them back to themselves, reclaim their time. A lot of us are just piling too much on our plates, and we don't know how to say no, and we don't know how to create clear boundaries. And so if we can learn that, we can hopefully steer clear of it. So those are some of the signs, and those are some of the things that I help people do before they reach that point. But if you are in full-blown burnout, if you can't get out of bed, if you can't go to work, if you can't take care of your kids, it's time to speak to the doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the values thing that we talked about a couple questions ago, I think really helps with some of that, the boundary work too.
Yeah.
Because again, when you're clear on what you value, it makes it a lot easier for you to be decisive in what you say yes and what you say no to.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're speaking there, you were talking a little bit about self-care and general well-being. So many of the listeners are already feeling pinched for time, like they don't have anything to spare. And of course, with most of them being moms, the very first thing they're going to sacrifice is themselves.
Yeah.
So knowing that that's where most of this audience sits, what might 3 easy tips for moving the needle on their own well-being look like?
Great. I'll give you 3 tips. These are my general 3 tips. So if you are kind of not taking care of yourself and you don't know where to begin, 3 places to start. Number 1, breathing. I advise all my clients to set an alarm at 10:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the afternoon. That could be something from a simple 8 deep diaphragmatic breaths. That can be the Dr. Andrew Weil 4-7-8 breath. That is both for anxiety and sleep, but also for stress. So you inhale through your nose to the count of 4, you hold your breath to the count of 7, and then you exhale like this through pursed lips to the count of 8. You can repeat that about 6 to 12 cycles Again, we talked about that 21 days. If you do this, if you breathe once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and you do that daily for 3 weeks, you are going to notice a vast shift in your anxiety level and how stressed you feel. It's life changing. So, the first simple thing to do is, baby, just start breathing. Number two, so important to prioritize sleep. So, starting to get into a habit of programming yourself to go to bed 15 minutes earlier at night and awaken 15 minutes earlier in the morning with a beautiful self-care activity. So this gets us to bed earlier instead of like doom scrolling and Netflixing, and it gets us waking up, starting to incorporate self-care and starting our day doing a non-negotiable small activity we love. Getting up 15 minutes earlier and preparing baking or journaling or stretching or reading or listening to a podcast or walking. So 15 minutes earlier at night, going to bed earlier, and getting up and creating that 15 minutes of self-care, starting your day doing something you love, also game changing. And the
Erica,
third
can I
one,
interrupt you right there? I'm sorry. I want to double click on that. Does the time really matter? Like, does if you're doing, for example, if somebody's journaling and they want to do the 15-minute journal before bed,
mm-hmm,
where it's just happening at a different time of
yeah,
day,
yeah.
does that actually matter? Does the time of
The
day
whole,
actually matter?
well, the whole purpose is to start programming your body to sleep more hours before midnight, which we know is better for us. And then
Ah,
if you're not taking care of yourself, it's that whole piece of 15 minutes of joy in the morning. So it's like if you say, I'm going to bed with my phone, I'm getting up in the morning, I'm jumping out of bed. Well, here's the chance to start programming, moving everything, shifting everything back 15 minutes. So it's the point of going to bed earlier. It's not so much the self-care activity. Yes, of course, having a bedtime routine is great, but it's the whole piece of going to bed earlier and then creating our days, starting our days in joy, whatever that looks like for you. That's the exercise. That's the point of that. And then the third piece is just simple walking. 10 to 12 minutes a day helps with mood, cortisol, starting small. So if you're feeling kind of taxed, tired, stuck, you don't know what to do, those would be three great things to start with: breathing, the sleeping portion, and then the walking. Simple.
I love that. Thank you. Okay, I
Yeah.
want to double click on sleep a little bit more.
Yeah.
That was a big one for me, and I'm going to set the stage a little bit in order to. Oh, let me get to the punchline first, and it's around your recommendations around natural sleep. But before we
Mm-hmm.
get there, let me set the stage. So I was at a point, gosh, this was in like 2018-ish time frame when I had my second. I was working 80 hours a week. My stress levels were out of control. I had the most manipulative, mentally abusive boss, and it
So
just
sorry.
wrecked my sleep. And then that, like getting my sleep wrecked by all of those variables, got me to a place where I had extreme sleep anxiety, where then I'm in my head, or I'm like,
Yep.
if I fall asleep now, then I'll get this much sleep. And then that didn't happen. And, that dial kept moving. I found a tool that I swear by personally. It's called the Apollo Neuro. I care about it so much that I actually am an affiliate and link it in my podcast. But when you and I last spoke, you were like, Courtney, I'm a fan of natural stuff. Like, while me, swear by the tool, you swear by natural remedies around sleep. So what would you say to someone like me? Talk about me in 2018, where I have that extreme sleep anxiety because I am so stressed. What might your coaching be to someone who can to help them improve what their sleep patterns look like to get them out of that dark hole?
Absolutely. So I would, again, we went back to breathing, meditation, and mindfulness, just the research and through my clients is so significant. So I would have you create this bedtime routine whereby, as you wind things down, the problem is we start our routine too late and then we end up staying up too late. So shifting everything earlier, getting into bed, getting excited, opening up, making sure that you have on your phone or tablet Insight Timer, Headspace, Breathe, any of these apps. One of my favorite meditation teachers is Glenn Harold, and he is on Breathe. He's also on Insight Timer. His voice, he has hypnotherapies, which are life changing for my clients. And so, any kind of anxiety around sleep, I would always say the getting used to again and give it time. It takes 3 weeks to form a new habit, but staying with a bedtime meditation and going through the apps whereby you're called to it. So like I have my clients, like even for me, when I get into bed, so I meditate 365 mornings a year and evenings a year. So when I get into bed at night, it's part of my habitual, not even routine, more ritual. And how I'm feeling on the day, I meditate based on what I'm needing. So if I'm feeling anxious, I'll do bedtime meditation, always a bedtime meditation for anxiety. If I feel like I want to be creative, I have a big day tomorrow, I'll do a bedtime meditation on creativity and manifesting your goals and dreams. So get comfortable with finding bedtime meditations for anxiety, worry, anything like that, and sticking with it. I would go with a meditation 30 to 60 minutes because it's not, you're going to be like, Erica, that's so long. I thought we meditate for 5 minutes. A daytime meditation would be 2 to 5 minutes, but a bedtime meditation, you need to give your mind enough time to listen to the meditation teacher, listen to the music. I would do a guided meditation to music for anyone who is kind of beginning with this. So what that does is that helps. That's why I love bedtime meditation, because it helps with anxiety during the day. It's starting to help rewire our brain at night. So that helps. And again, like Glenn Harold, he has his meditations on sleep anxiety. So he talks about showing up to sleep with no expectation. And if you're up in the middle of the night, this is your little sacred time to be with yourself. Like we flip it into a positive, meaning it gets us away from getting so stuck about being nervous. How many hours, right? We know that, oh my God, I've only got 2 more hours left of sleep. I haven't slept yet. So sticking to that bedtime meditation will change your life. When I teach my Busy to Bliss course, all my women live it, know it. They know that my first, before daytime or morning meditation, is a bedtime meditation. Because when we're not sleeping, we are not operating in any zone of genius. We're waking up tired, uncreative, snappy, and frustrated. So learning how to create that sacred bedtime meditation is really important. And I do it because I know that it serves me. I do it every single night. And even though I am a meditation teacher, I still listen to a guided music meditation. The music, I will listen to binaural beats or any kind of sleep beat. The music is very calming. I get a meditation teacher that doesn't annoy me, someone that I like their voice. It's soothing. And Andy Hobson, Tara Brach, there's a whole bunch of different ones that I love. And I get into the habit. And then through that, my sleep has been restorative. I mean, I've been meditating for many years, but I have beautiful sleeps every night with vivid dreams. And I really credit most of it to meditation, to having that routine. And I would advise anyone who's struggling with sleep to do a bedtime meditation. I also have a line of essential oils where I have a beautiful, really potent sleep blend, 100% pure therapeutic grade, not a chemical, not a filler. That's called Sleep Easy. That's at blissessential.co. So for me, I'm all about the natural. But again, if you are really, really, really struggling, it's time to speak to your doctor. And Perfect. They may have some options if the meditation's not working, if essential oils and aromatherapy are not working, if you're exercising and moving your body and still not sleeping at night, it's time to speak to your doctor.
Perfect. And I will make sure that I link that Sleep Easy from Bliss Essential as well. Great. So thank you for that. Now, 2 tactical questions about that. One is are you meaning like 30 minutes of dedicated meditation, or is that something that you can put on in the background while you wash your face?
Okay. So the meditation is the last thing you do before bed. So your routine, it's considered kind of like the time where you want to go to sleep. You put that on almost to fall asleep. Okay. That is where the time after you've done your reading or your listening to a podcast or you're journaling or you're stretching or you're baking or whatever it is that you enjoy, or your bath as a calming wind down activity. That is something to help you if you're struggling. You put it in your ears. Every night I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm usually wired or tangled around I've got like my iPad. I use it on airplane mode. I've got it like somewhere near me. And then somehow in the middle of the night, like I take it away and I leave it on the floor. But it is part of this doesn't eat into your day. This is like the afterthought. This is like
I think an important point. It doesn't eat into your day. You're not adding anything to
your day. No, when you've done all your fun things in your day and you've built a beautiful bedtime ritual and you've brain dumped you're creating your bedtime ritual and your bedtime routine, and you make a list of all the things you want to start incorporating into your life. It is the afterthought. It is the last thing when you're ready to go to bed. You just put on your earphones in your ear and listen to that guided meditation. Give it 3
Awesome.
weeks and come back to me. I promise you it will change your life. It really
Yeah,
will.
I use Chelsea Jackson Roberts for anybody that has the Peloton app. She had her meditation was around a body checkpoint, and that worked beautifully for me
Like
too.
a
But it was
body
a very
scan.
different, yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
beautiful. There's mantra meditation where we repeat a same word because it helps bring our, our mind to the present moment. There's body scans, like you said, body scanning from head to toe. These are all different kinds of meditations and mindfulness. There's the important thing is what works for you doesn't work for me. Find
right,
something that works for you. And if you don't, it's like I teach yoga. It's like people say, oh, I don't like yoga. I'm like, you just haven't met the right teacher.
yeah,
Keep playing until you find something you like, because it is the research, it is the science. It's out of Harvard Medical School, the Mayo Clinic. Yoga and meditation work for burnout prevention, for anxiety. They are life changing,
yep.
truly.
I'm a believer for sure. Well, how long would you say if somebody is like, okay, I'm going to listen to this Erica woman. She's convincing. I'm going to give this a go. How long do you believe it will realistically take them to reset?
Well, that's what the research tells us. It takes about 21 days to start
21
forming a
days.
new habit. So as you become intentional about trying these new things, breathing during the day, putting on a meditation podcast or a meditation, app at night before bed, waking up, doing something in creativity and joy in the morning. How long till you start to experience relief? About 3 weeks. But for it to become dialed in more as an automatic, about 66 days up to 6 months, for it to start to become more automatic, where you just get into bed and you get up and you have your mat rolled out, you're going to exercise, or journaling is like just 21 days for you to start to form a new habit. But until it's really dialed in, until you're dialed in for it to almost become more automatic, yeah, about 2 months to about 6 months. Those are some time frames
And then what about
according to
actually
research.
feeling the benefit of that? Is that
Yes. Oh,
the immediate?
no, not immediate. It will take a few weeks. It will take
Okay.
a few weeks. Generally, that 21 days, you start to feel relief. In about 2 to 3 weeks, you'll start to feel different
Okay.
if you're
That's
consistent with
perfect.
it. But the important piece here that I think we also need to talk about is, as we course correct, we're human beings, and human beings, we take, what's the dance? We take a few steps forward and a couple steps back. So the key is, as you start to go along your wellness journey, we will and you will inevitably fall off the wellness wagon. And I say what's most important, and just like we're on that um, kind of not good role, which is like, oh, we're eating like crap, we're not sleeping, and we just let ourselves fall off that wagon. Just as that becomes a habit and a pattern, so too can good habits form as well. So as you start to course correct and create these new habits and these new rituals for yourself, but one week is very busy, you've been working late, and you fall off your routine, and then what happens is we start to feel shame. We shame ourselves, we feel guilty. How come I couldn't stick with it? Something very important we must grant ourselves is two things, and that's grace and compassion. So if you were doing well and you're trying and everything's working well, and then you just you're not listening or honoring yourself for 1 week or one day or whatever it is, the important thing is to grant ourselves grace and compassion, and then we try again. So what that looks like, and we go right back to the basics. So what that looks like is telling ourselves, there's that mindset work again, that a bad day is not a bad week, is not a bad month, is not a bad quarter, is not a bad year, is not a bad life. We are human beings. We are allowed to err, fall off, and we are allowed to try again tomorrow. The sun rises every morning. Every morning is a chance to try again. And so if we give ourselves that grace and compassion, the world opens up to us. Our journey becomes doable. It doesn't become this overwhelming thing that I'll never be able to do it. I'll never be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. There is no perfect wellness routine. We all struggle. I teach it and I struggle sometimes. And when I get off course, I go back to baseline. I try and come back to homeostasis. I go back to the basics. Am I meditating? Am I breathing? Am I walking? Those 5 pillars: what you eat, how you sleep, how you move your body, how you manage stress, how you connect socially. Am I getting out and having social connections with other people? Am I eating well? Am I moving my body? How am I sleeping? Tuning into those 5 pillars. And that's like your pizza pie. So if you're feeling like crap right now, I invite you to look at your life at like that pizza, and whichever slice you're struggling in the most, that's where you begin. That's where you start. If you don't know where to start, think of those 5 pillars, and wherever you're struggling the most there, that's where you begin first.
I love that. I
Yeah.
really like that a lot. And I also would offer that so often we don't grant ourselves the same grace that we do other people in our lives.
Yes.
So that's really an opportunity for us to be as gracious with the feedback that we tell ourselves as we are with our best friends or our kids. So,
So true. That's such a great point. We're the first person to tell our friend, of course, you're amazing. Of course, you can do
mm,
this. You're great. And, I know it didn't work out, but tomorrow's a new day. Try again. We don't tell ourselves if we miss the opportunity to give ourselves great. That's the grace that tomorrow's a new day, that we can try again, that if this job doesn't work out, there'll be another job. No, we beat ourselves up. We go into that
yep,
limited fixed mindset, right? So
yep,
great tip. How you would speak to a friend, gently speak to a friend, is how we must speak to ourselves.
yep, agreed. Okay, Erica, before we drop, I ask every guest I host 3 lightning round questions.
Yep.
And the first is, what is your go-to stress busting activity?
Definitely meditation. It's my foundational piece.
I had no doubt that was going to be the
It's so
answer, but I was like,
boring, I
maybe.
know. Or my nightly bath. You're laughing. I also take a bath 365 nights a year, and there is research that shows that warm bath is helpful for our sleep, so I never miss it.
Oh, I believe that to be true. And I'm
Yeah.
incredibly impressed by your discipline.
Oh, it's not a discipline. It's my spa. I create it. I teach it. I tell people to declutter and make their bathrooms like a beautiful Zen space with some candles and a plant and some magazines, and it should be your oasis. We build it, and then we'll show up and we'll come.
My bathroom is for sure my oasis. My husband and I have never split or shared a bathroom. We've always had our own bathroom. And when we built our house, that was one expectation we had, is that we'd each have our own bathroom. For that very reason, Erica, is well, a couple reasons. Like, one, I did not need man hair or his clutter. But the other thing is, like, I wanted it to be something that I could control. And it is the only place in this house I completely control. It is either my mess or my zen. I'm a firm believer in that very same concept.
Do you know, I hear that's why I coach a lot of moms, and they talk about their car. They said they share a bed with a husband or a wife. They share their home. They said, but their car is like, if some of them have their own car, some of them share their cars, but like I hear from my clients who have their own car, they're like, my car is the place where like I can go. It's my space. And even I hear a lot of people, like you said, your own bathroom. I don't know, I hear from a lot of my moms, they're like, I share my bed, my car is my place. I go in there
I can
sometimes.
see that for a lot of people.
I sit in my car.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people. And there's actually a funny meme that says something to the tune of, I can't tell you, but you understand if you need like 10 minutes to decompress and you pull up to your home before you go into the house, just sit quietly in your car. Like, that's self-care, and I can't explain it. There's like a funny meme. I don't know the exact words, but a lot of moms I hear from love their car.
I guess I've always underappreciated mine. It might be because for, I don't know, 7-ish years, we rotated cars because there were 3 adults. We had an au pair in our house, and there were 3 adults and only 2 cars. But also, I guess I just get so angry because my kids are absolute animals. They make it so messy. But I could see it. I mean, it's a place for you to get away, to be able to have that reset.
Quite literally, it drives away.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's very poetic. Okay, what is the last book or podcast you really crushed on?
I just finished reading Let Them by Mel Robbins.
And it was a good one.
Yep, I enjoyed the theory. It seems like common sense, but she said it in a way that spoke to me, and obviously speaks to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So that's the last book that I read, and I am reading now Story Brand by Dennis Miller. I forget his name. But Story Brand is I'm loving it. I'm midway through. It's excellent.
Okay, I don't know that one.
Donald Miller. Donald Miller is his name.
Okay. I will add that one to my list. Okay. And then if you could wave a magic wand, what task would you eliminate forever?
Cooking.
Just you can though, Erica. Get rid of it. Pay someone else to do it.
I do. I love eating. I detest cooking. I would love my dream, if we're sharing secrets, my dream would be like to have someone who in the mornings went to the fresh open air market, got some fresh fish or some fresh chicken with vegetables and a salad and a soup, and like in the morning, he or she would shop for me. And in the afternoon, they would come to my house and just make these beautiful meals for my family. And we'd sit down and I didn't have to think about it or cook it or prepare it. And we'd eat healthy food. And that's my dream. I know
well,
I could probably, manifest it somehow, but
yes.
yeah, I probably could, but I don't have it at the moment. I do have part-time help, but I don't have that lifestyle built in. And that would be amazing because I never, for some reason, we never know what we want for dinner. It's always like this. I'm always out of meal ideas and I never have the right ingredients. Having someone shop in the morning and cook a healthy meal for me seems like a magic wand moment. So that's my answer.
Well, I'm going to encourage you to manifest that, Erica, because I will
Yes,
tell
I
you,
could.
I'm not lying when I say my meal fairy is downstairs right this very minute.
Yeah.
Because I also don't enjoy cooking, but I value my health a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't want to eat out, which means that I'm going to have somebody here cooking for me. And I just have her come 1 day a week. So it's not the fresh every night, but what I'll have her do is prepare everything. Like I'll have her prepare the soup, but not actually cook it. So all I do the morning of is dump all the ingredients in a pot and it's a fresh meal, but
Absolutely.
it's like and it's a lot more economical than people give it credit for or
Oh,
assume it will be.
I mean, that's part of delegating. I teach it and I live it. So my part-time help does as well. And we'll meal prep together. If we're doing a soup, I'll have her, chop up some of the vegetables while I'm cooking the chicken and I'll meal batch for the week. So that's about delegating, playing to your strengths. So 100%, we all have to be able to ask for help and outsource and use the resources that we have and that we
Yeah, but
can.
it's not the same thing, I think, as what you have in
That's
mind.
what
Like
I'm
in
saying,
yeah,
right? I'm
Canada,
onto something.
the North America is not really set up like your Italian walk down the street to grab your fresh baguette and tomatoes.
By the way, I got this idea because my masseuse, I haven't seen her for years, but my old masseuse, that's exactly what she did. So she was a masseuse and she was a masseuse as a part-time job, but her full-time job that's how I got the idea. I was like, I can't believe there are people that do this. Every morning she would go to, it was called the Atwater Market. It's a beautiful market near me. And she would shop fresh daily produce and everything. And she'd spend the afternoon. They had 4 kids and she would cook these different meals she would cook. She told me, she's like, for the kids, I made ribs, and for the parents, I made fish because the kids don't eat fish, but the parents wanted fish and the kids had ribs. And she would make like homemade sweet potato fries and zucchini and vegetables. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
that's where I
the
got the idea.
dream.
It's not my own. It was because she was doing it. And I'm like, I need that. I need that. Whatever that is,
Yeah,
I need that.
no kidding. Well, also it takes away your mental fatigue of having to come up with
Oh,
what you
yeah.
eat too.
We all have decision fatigue. That's a whole other
Yeah.
podcast as I speak a lot about automating tasks to reduce decision fatigue. That's another thing that keeps us in low vibing energy is
Yeah.
decision fatigue. Yeah.
Well, that is that will be part 2, Erica. Okay. Very, very last question. How can people find you?
Yeah. EricaDiamond.com is really everything. You can learn about my courses there. You can learn about one-on-one coaching there. You can learn about speaking. I love Instagram. So I'm on Instagram. I'm on pretty much all social platforms at Erica Diamond with a C. You can check out busytobliss.com. That's my transformational mind and body burnout prevention course. It's a beautiful 8-week course. It's affordable and it's the way to start your self-care journey immediately. So yeah, ericadiamond.com is everything. The essential oils are at blissessential.co, but everything lives under ericadiamond.com. So I would refer you there.
Perfect. Well, I will make sure to drop that in the show notes. Erica, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here. Friends, thank you for tuning in. I will drop all of Erica's information in the show notes. I will also include my top 10 time wasters guide. So Erica and I talked a little bit about how your values inform your decision making, and decision making is in fact one of the core time wasters that most people have. I am willing to bet that most things in that guide will surprise you. So I will drop that list and the access to that in the show notes as well. But until next time, if nobody's told you lately, you're doing a great job. You've got this, mama.